Jesse. Jesse! I dip my balls in hot chocolate. Jesse! Help me, Jesse! 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 I dip my balls in hot chocolate. Jesse! Help me, Jesse!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to I Dip My Balls in Hot Chocolate, the only and best podcast about dipping your balls in hot chocolate. Today's episode is a serial killer breakdown about BTK, Dennis Rader. If you enjoy the episode, please share, rate, anything you can do to help share this podcast and get it spread around the world. That would be great. Today's guest we have is DBZ Mando. You can follow him on YouTube and Twitch. He does gaming, mostly Star Wars and Dragon Ball content. So go ahead and give him a follow if you can. And thank you for tuning in.
I dipped my balls in the hot chocolate. Oh, how it burns. I dipped my balls in the hot chocolate.
We're just going to start with the biography. And that's pretty much all we're going to be reading right now. So we're going to start with, the beginning is called Childhood, Adolescence, and Adulthood. This is pre-1974, so it's before all the murders. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dennis Rader was born in a quiet corner of Kansas, close to where Kansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri all meet. On March 9th, 1945, he was the first of four sons born to William and Dorothea Rader. He was baptized as a Zion Lutheran Church, or at Zion Lutheran Church in Pittsburgh, Kansas. His father was a member of the Marine Corps, who later worked for the electricity utility KG&E, starting in 1948. The family moved to the largest city in Kansas, Wichita, when Dennis was a young boy. The Raiders settled into a modest but pleasant home on 4815 North Seneca, which remained continually as a Raider household until sold in 2005. So, I don't know about you, but is Pittsburgh in Kansas? I thought Pittsburgh was not in Kansas.
Actually, I think it is. Give me one.
Pittsburgh. Oh no, this is a different Pittsburgh, I think. Wait, there's three. This is without the H. So there's three cities of Pittsburgh. There's a Californian Pittsburgh, there's a Kansas Pittsburgh, and there's the Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Which I think is the one I'm thinking about.
Oh yeah,
that
just showed me the one for
about.
Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah. So what?
Yeah, so he's in Kansas. He's got the weird Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Okay. Oops. Continuing. Not much is known about Rader's childhood. It is said to have joined the Boy Scouts. Not Boy Scouts. Okay. Is said to have joined the Boy Scouts as a youth. He attended Riverview Elementary School. By his own admission, he says he developed fantasies about bondage, control, and torture from an early age, while still in grade school. So he's fucked from the beginning.
Damn.
Yeah, from grade school, he's already having fantasies. That's disgusting.
Yeah, that's all right. That's already a sign that's the biggest red flag if I ever did see one.
Yeah, well, it's probably going to get more apparent soon. Probably. Especially in this next sentence. As he became oh my god, why would they phrase it like that? As he became pubic, he dreamed of tying girls up and having his way with them.
Pubic? Like what?
Yeah.
As he became a singular pubic hair.
I'm just gonna say it my way. As he hit puberty.
Yeah.
As he hit puberty, he dreamed of tying girls up and having his way with them. That's how you would say it.
I would imagine. Bro, they said pubic, and I was like, "What? He became a pubic hair? Like, what the hell? How'd you do that?"
This outline is trash. Murderpedia, come on, murderpedia.org.
Come on, dude. Phrasing means everything.
That is pretty bad. The Mouseketeer, Antoinette. How do you say that name? Oh, the Mouseketeer Annette. No, it's the Mouseketeer Annette. Funicello was one of his favorite targets for imaginary bondage. He admits to having killed cats and dogs, such as by hanging them as a youth.
See, that's already a sign, right? Like when people.
That's one of the. It's called the McDonald's triad. It's supposed to profile people with like sadistic tendencies and like, serial killers, people with serious issues. They like wet the bed. They torture and kill like small animals, and they it's either head injury or
when people are doing stuff to animals, it's just a small thing. It's a building block. Nobody thinks too much of it when you're just slaying animals because it's not a person, but that is literally the building block to murder, I feel.
Yeah. Well, they're already murdering like young animals.
Yeah,
so
they're already killing they're already killing animals. If you're able to kill an animal, what's to stop them from moving on to bigger prey, so to speak?
Yeah. Okay. Those who knew him personally describe a quiet, polite young man who preferred to keep to himself. Dennis Rader was not a joiner or known to be very socially active in high school. The young Dennis showed no interest in music of the times. One friend described him as utterly lacking a sense of humor, but tending to be studious and focused. He was described as a person who chose his words before speaking and who would give you his full attention as he spoke. So that's pretty normal. I mean, there's people like that don't turn out to be fucked up. But, he's kind of a hollow man.
pretty much,
Very
yeah.
hollow.
Yep.
Dennis Rader graduated from Wichita Heights High School in the class of 1963. In his latter adolescence, he appears to have had employment such as working in a grocery store. It wasn't until the fall of 1965 that he entered Kansas Wesleyan College in Salina, too far away from Wichita to live at home. He did only 2 semesters there, but in the summer of 1966, at age 21, he joined the Air Force. So he's an airman.
So
he's an airman.
He's part of the chair force. No, I'm kidding. But he's already
this
part
next
of the...
part is crazy because
What's up?
he was sent to Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. That's for his basic training. So I guess he did his basic training there and then went back to it says he went back to Wichita Falls at Shepherd Air Force Base. He's doing technical training there. But in early 1967, he got stationed at Brickley Air Force Base. That's in Mobile, Alabama. And he was there until January 1968 when he was sent to Kadena Air Force Base in Oklahoma in the West Pacific. So he's been traveling very, very frequently, which I understand is pretty normal for the Air Force. I think they go from base to base frequently.
Yeah, just in military in general, whenever you're there, you usually go from place to place.
Well, yeah, but I also think it's like, especially with the Air Force, I think they do that a lot. So, I mean, that's pretty normal.
Yeah. Nothing out of the blue there. He's going from place to place.
Yep.
What did he do? What did he do from place to place? That's what we're going to find out.
Yeah. Okay, so he remained stationed in tropical Okinawa for 6 months. In July 1968, he was moved to mainland Japan, stationed at a large Takinawa Air Force Base located near Tokyo. He appears to have been based there until the end of his service in 1970. By his own description, he also spent time in Korea, Greece, Turkey while serving in the Air Force. But I'm guessing that's probably not true. He's probably just fucking lying. I don't know. He's probably a piece of shit.
Possibly, honestly, yeah.
Possibly.
No, more likely, definitely.
Shit. Yeah.
There's no possibly. It's just, yes, this guy is a piece of shit.
Yep. His 4 years of active duty on the Air Force appear to have been unremarkable. He attained the rank of sergeant and worked in the installation of antenna equipment, among other tasks. A former buddy of his was totally shocked when he found out he was BTK, which is pretty standard from what I understand. They're pretty much put on a mask, so... not too surprising.
Honestly, so this guy not only was like pretty meh and ordinary in his school life, he wasn't even like noticeable in his military career either. Man was fucking did nothing out of the blue. But I guess that's the point, right? That's most things. Isn't that, I guess, like what the stereotype or trope that most killers are just your average Joe, just to not
they can
draw
be pretty
attention.
much anybody.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of range, like, he's kind of a meh, boring guy, so he kind of blends in. A lot of them are like that, where they're, like, not the person you think. They're, like, completely non-threatening when they're not in that mode, because they kind of, like, fragment their personality. So it's, like, you see them normally and they're not threatening, but when they want to be threatening, they are very threatening.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was just one of the guys that sort of blended in. He got a good conduct medal, small arms expert marksmanship ribbon. Goddamn, I can't speak. National Defense Service medal, and was discharged from active duty in the summer of 1970, where he returned to his hometown of Wichita, Kansas. And he served 2 more years in the reserves, but I'm guessing that wasn't very, active. So here's where you're going to see it.
Oh boy, here we go.
Like what we were talking about before the podcast about how he's a family man. Less than a year after his return to Wichita, on May 22nd, 1971, keep in mind that's about 3 years before his first murder, he gets married to Paula Dietz. Paula was also from the same area and attended the same high school. She was also a fellow Lutheran. Dennis was 26 and she was 23 when they got married. And they finally settled in Park City, not far from the Rader home in North Wichita. Dennis was working in the meat department of an IGA supermarket, and Paula was a bookkeeper.
How did they meet, though?
I don't know. I guess they probably just met. Let me see if it says anything. Yeah, no, I don't know where they met. I'm guessing they probably either met in where he went to Wichita, or maybe they just knew each other from high school.
Damn, that's even crazier. Knowing somebody from high school, and technically, if they have known each other from high school and got together even after that, so high school sweetheart, and so knowing them since then, and then your high school sweetheart was just a psychopath the entire time and a murderer, and you didn't know.
Yeah, I think she got pretty crushed by that whenever it came out.
Yeah, that's mind-boggling. That's fucking torture, dude.
It's pretty crazy. But he went back to work in 1972 at the Coleman Co., a manufacturer of camping supplies and Wichita's largest employer at the time. He lasted 13 months there until July 1973. He was also attending a community college in El Dorado and earned an associate's in electronics. That was 1 year after, in 1973. And then in fall, he began his studies at Wichita State. Take him 6 more years of night school to earn his degree. He was a poor student, even by his own description, a chronic C- or D level. He couldn't spell and may have had a learning disability, reflecting in his unusually bad written grammar, which we'll learn about a lot. He writes a lot of letters. I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of badly written grammar.
Oops.
Yeah. In late 1973 or early 1974, he appears to have had a brief stint working for Cessna, the aircraft manufacturer, but says he was fired from that job. He found himself a low frame of mind, unemployed, unhappy, and with time on his hands, he slipped deeper into the fantasy world that he had known since childhood and wanted to know. What would it feel like to strangle someone to death? That's what he asked himself.
Wow.
So,
all right.
Yep.
What would it?
We're about to get into it.
What? I wonder how it would feel if I were to put my hands around somebody and just keep squeezing.
Yeah, very, very studious, very responsible, good-hearted man thinking about strangling someone to death. Very good-hearted.
Yep. Good. Yep.
Yeah, he's real great at that kind of stuff. Being a piece of shit, that is. 1974. He was in between jobs and restless. His wife worked at the VA hospital in Wichita and didn't like driving in snow and ice, so Dennis would sometimes drive her to and from work. He enjoyed trolling, which he does a little bit of trolling.
I enjoy trolling. Haha, it was a prank. I murdered you.
I don't think it's what you think it is. It's consists of driving or walking around a certain neighborhood or school campus where there would be women to observe. He would focus on a good prospect and enter into his fantasy realm of bondage, torture, and death, imagining that what he would do to her, bind them, torture, and kill them. So, a standard amount of trolling.
Yeah, I like trolling people, Yeah, it was I killed you just a prank. What the hell?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. There was a new Hispanic family that had moved into a corner house at Edgemont and Murdoch. And one day, while dropping off Paula, he spied on Julie Otero, age 34, and her daughter Josephine, age 11.
Okay.
Really fucking young. So, yeah,
Damn.
it's really bad. He had a thing for Hispanic women, admiring their beauty and dark hair. Rader devised a plan. He gathered his hit kit consisting of a gun, cords, knife, and various tools for breaking and entering. He observed the Otero house for a time, getting an idea of when people left or returned, what their daily schedule was like. On the morning of January 15th, he could wait no longer. After 8 a.m., he came around the house, snuck into the yard, and cut the phone line. Hesitating at the back door, unsure if he could go through with it, he barged in. Things were not as he had expected. So from what I understand, I've read a little bit about this. I think one of the sons had went outside, so he was able to get in when the sun was playing out in the yard. But I don't think it mentioned that in here. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I remember reading it briefly. But anyways, the man of the house, Joe Otero, 38, was still home, which he was not planning for. I don't think he really wanted to deal with him.
Yeah,
As were Julie, Josephine, and Joey, the 9-year-old son. The
Damn,
rather
okay,
vicious
so
dog
he
was
already
in the
fucked
house.
up.
Yeah, he fucked up. This is
How do you,
this
did he
is
get
a
caught? No,
big
that's right.
situation.
He didn't get caught after that, which was like, what the hell?
He's gonna have 10 murders, so he's gonna have a couple more after this.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning for him. The rather vicious dog was in the house also. Rader, oh my god, I can't speak. Rader seized control of the situation, ordering Joey to put the dog in the backyard at gunpoint. He somehow was able to control all 4 people using the gun. He told them he was a wanted criminal and needed money, food, and a car to escape. At first, Joe was dumbfounded and asked him if this was some kind of joke set up by his brother-in-law. Rader ordered everyone to lie down in the living room, then changed his mind and sent them all into the bedroom. Using his vagrant ruse, he was able to disalarm the Oteros enough to get them all tied up. So they originally just thought he was going to rob them and then run away and get the keys, which he was not going to do.
I don't know. I'm kind of mixed about this. Like, they have their dog. They said a vicious dog. And listen. I know some people will probably be like, you don't want the dog to die, but it's like, if the dog attacks him, he's going to be too focused on the dog and, live or die the dog. That gives the other person the opportunity to get the gun away from the man that's literally being mauled by the dog. Like, you have a perfect opportunity to unhand this man. Like, I know it sucks because obviously somebody's going to, somebody's going to end up perishing. That might whether it be the dog or the guy he probably shoots at before the dog even mauls, if he's going to shoot at the dog. And we don't even know. Well, I mean, he's part of Air Force, so I'm assuming maybe his aim's good, but it just depends.
Yeah,
but,
he got a small marksmanship award, so he's got a firing background. But to counter that, they already put the dog outside. I think the main reason why they didn't have the dog go after him is because, from I guess the father's perspective, if anything goes wrong, it could be his children who die. So if he thinks it's just a robbery, why not just let the robber rob them?
Yeah. Yeah. That is also true. You just don't know. But the guy's got a gun. I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard. I'm just like, do you let the dog get him?
Yeah.
Just do you and the dog jump him? Because the kids aren't in, right? From one's outside, and then the other one's, what they said, in the back. Where was the other kid? Where's the other kid located?
They're all in the bedroom right now. He's put them all in the bedroom. He's about to tie them up.
No, I mean when he first got in the building and saw the boyfriend was there before he puts them.
I believe the kid was now inside. I believe the kid had the door open from playing in the backyard, but I think they were all inside.
Oh, okay. Then scratch. If they are all inside, then scratch that. If not, then it depends. Well, again, it just also depends on the scene. The kid's out. The kid, if the son is still outside, the robber's not gonna. I mean, what's the robber gonna do?
Yeah, but
because if he turns his back, that's screwed.
Yeah, you're about to see it. They were very content with him just robbing and getting out of there. They didn't want to fight. So he got And a lot of this stuff that I'm reading right now, because we're about to get into the murders, a lot of this stuff comes directly from him. He had a court testimony where he confessed to everything.
Oh, wow.
So he described every single murder and how it went down and all that. So we just ended up, he taken them to the bedrooms to get them tied up. Here's where he's going to start taking them out. However, everything changed when Rader put a bag over Joe's head. Joe fought hard, tearing holes in the bag. Rader had to devise a cord ligature to subdue him and kill him. So basically, he puts a bag over his head. Joe's like, tearing the bag open. And then he gets a cord and kills him with it. I think he ties the cord around the bag to keep him from like tearing it. And then he describes in the court that he puts a t-shirt under the bag so that he can't rip the bag open. So it's essentially like he has a t-shirt, a bag over the t-shirt, and then he has a cord around it so that he dies of asphyxiation.
Yeah.
Asphyxiation. He attempted to manually strangle Julie, but it took considerably longer and much more effort to strangle someone than it did in the movies, from his words. She passed out but revived after a time. The second strangulation attempt worked. She had begged Rader to not kill the children and told him, God have mercy on your soul.
Oh, wow.
So he's killed two of them. He's killed the father and the mother now. It's just the two kids. 9-year-old Joey was the next one to die. Rader herded him into his bedroom and did him through strangulation and suffocation. He apparently rolled off the bed and died face down on the bedroom floor. Rader says he brought in a chair into the bedroom and sat there to watch the boy die. Now, here's where it's about to get disgusting. Very disgusting. 11-year-old Josie was the final one. After a failed attempt at strangulation, she revived. Rader forced her to walk down to the basement. He put a noose around her neck and informed her she would be going to heaven to join the others. He asked her for a camera, but she said they didn't have one. Josie was hanged from a sewer pipe in the basement, left partially disrobed. Rader then masturbated over her bare legs, leaving some semen on the pipe behind her. Keep in mind, this girl is 11.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, now he's a fucking pedo.
He's nasty. Yeah, it's disgusting.
How did this man didn't get death row, did he?
He got, I don't think Kansas has death row, so he got all life in prison.
What the?
Well, he's still gonna rot in jail forever. Like, there's no chance he gets out. He's like already old as fuck. I think he's like 60 or 70. And he got sentenced to like 145 years before he can get to parole.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Well, I hope all the prisoners in there jump his ass.
Yeah. Well, they probably will. He's really old, though. He's like a geriatric. Maybe he's in the geriatric unit.
Oh, great.
Afterwards, Rader tidied up a bit, collected his things, and left after a time. He took Joe's watch and a small radio. He got into their Oldsmobile station wagon, backed out into Murdoch Street, and nearly had a collision with an oncoming vehicle. So, great driver, already getting into a collision right after murdering 4 people. Rader drove to a nearby supermarket, Dillon's, and parked the car. A lady saw him exiting the car, shaking like a leaf. He stealthily tossed the car keys onto the roof of Dillon's and exited the area on foot. After that, he claims he walked to his own car, but realized his knife was missing. He claims to have driven back to the Otero house, parked his car in their garage, and then retrieved the knife from the yard.
Wow. Grabbed all the evidence.
Yeah, it's crazy. Rader had no idea the Oteros had 3 other children, all whom left for school before his arrival. Charlie, 15, Daniel, 14, and Carmen, 13.
So the last one...
They were the ones who found their parents dead, and when they arrived home from school that afternoon. Damn. So they found their parents and their siblings just murdered, like, brutally.
Fuck.
Here's the next one. In April 1974, Rader was stalking a woman named Catherine Bright, 21. He had seen her one day entering the home she rented in Wichita. On April 4th, he broke into her home via the back porch door. He hid in a bedroom. Around 2 p.m., she arrived home accompanied by her brother Kevin, who was 19 years old. Kevin didn't live there, but had gone with his sister that day to the bank. Rader startled them by emerging from the bedroom, pointing a gun at them. He recited the same story he had told the Oteros. He was a wanted criminal from California on his way to New York and needed a car and money. Rader forced the two of them in the bedroom where Catherine was tied up and Kevin forced at gunpoint and or by Rader himself. So basically he forced her brother to tie his own sister up.
Jesus Christ.
And
This
I
man
guess
is like,
maybe he helped.
so far he's got, he's fucking with people. I'm just saying that. I'm like trying to think of words, but so far with the other 2 kills, he has made people basically round each other up.
Yeah, he's really terrible. So, Yeah. But he attempted to tie Kevin up in another room, but he hadn't brought his best hit kit materials that day and had to improvise from materials around the house. Kevin worked his way loose and got into a vicious fight for his life with Rader, nearly succeeding in taking the gun from him. So he almost ended it. So at this point, he would have only killed 4 people.
Yep, he almost had it.
Yeah,
Almost.
It's pretty crazy. Rader grabbed back the gun, though, and got a shot off that hit Kevin in the face. Still fighting, Kevin made 1 or more attempts to overpower Rader, but got shot a second time in the head. Stunned and bleeding, Kevin appeared to be dead or dying, and Rader went back to work on Catherine. So he's a fighting spirit, and that's very honorable. He's trying to fight for his life, I feel like he's kind of a hero in that kind of regard.
I mean, at least it's finally somebody fought back. I know not everybody. It's like that fight or flight situation, and clearly this man had the fight in him.
Yeah, he was trying to save his sister.
Yeah.
His sister. But he moves on to Catherine. She also gave him a powerful fight. But in order to end the scene quickly, Rader switched from attempted strangulation to stabbing, getting her with deep cuts to the abdomen and other areas. So he just stabs her to death. Yeah. Meanwhile, Kevin had revived and ran out the house screaming for help. This necessitated Rader having to make a hasty exit, as he did, running from the scene on foot. He ran the many blocks to where his car was parked and drove off. He was all cleaned up by the time his wife got off work, and no one suspected him. Wow. Somehow it doesn't get caught, despite, that was a very serious situation he got himself into. He could have nearly just got caught right then and there. Catherine died in the hospital a few hours later, despite urgent attempts to save her with surgery and blood transfusions. Kevin was left in a critical condition with his head wounds, but he survived. He still bears the damage done to him that day.
He couldn't tell. Well, never mind. It's brain damage. What am I going to talk about? What am I fucking saying?
Yeah, he got shot in the head twice.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah, he might have also worn a mask in this one. I'm not sure. He didn't wear the mask in the first one, which is why he killed them. I don't think he was originally planning on killing them. Or he wanted to back out of it with the Oteros, but he was like, they've already seen my face. I can't back out. They got to die. Yeah. But in October 1974, an editor of the Wichita Eagle newspaper received a phone call directing him to a letter hidden in an engineering book in the Wichita Public Library. He notified police instead, who found the letter in the library. It was a gruesome description of the unsolved Otero murders by someone with a good knowledge of the crime scene. It was written in poor English with numerous misspellings. There's the bad grammar. The writer was concerned that the police had recently arrested the wrong man for the Otero murders and proudly proclaimed, "I did it myself with no one's help," he said. "The code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them. BTK. Yep. So he, made his own thing. All right, we got a bit more and then we'll take a break. It shouldn't take too long.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, this is the second part of the biography. It's 1975 through 1979. Again, if you want to find this and read it on your own, it's murderpedia.org. Just look up Rader with the little alphabetical search. And then the biography's on that page, as well as a bunch of disturbing photographs and shit like that. But anyways, in 1974, November, Dennis Rader finally found a steady job with ADT Security, a company specializing in installation of alarm systems. He would stay with them for the next 14 years. He rose to the position of installation supervisor, which gave him some flexibility in terms of where he could be during the day. In 1975, the Raiders' first child was born, Brian. Dennis had a full schedule between ADT and night school at WSU, even though he was not known to have committed any known crime during 1975 and 1976. By his own description, the trolling of more victims never did cease then or until his arrest 30 years later. On March 17th, 1977, Rader decided it was time for a murder one way or another. He had been trolling a particular neighborhood fairly heavy and noticed some woman in mind there. He had met a woman named Cheryl in a bar and found her quite interesting. Cheryl was renting a house with another woman and often had parties there in those days. Rader found out where she lived and decided it would be a go, meant a definite hit. Fortunately for Cheryl and her friends, no one was home when Rader came around the day. Rader states he had also cased another home in the neighborhood, but no one was there either. So essentially, if this is the correct one I remember, he like hides in the closet and he's there for like several hours just waiting for them to come home, but they never do. And I think he writes a really shitty poem about it later, which I'll see if I can find in a second.
This man waited and fucking failed.
Yeah, he was, pretty bad at that kind of stuff. Let me see if I can find that poem. It's pretty bad.
Where does the family think he's at the whole time? Does it work?
I don't know. I guess work. I don't really know what they think, but it's pretty crazy. He gets away with a lot of stuff without his family even thinking about it. But, it could be like, just a thing they didn't think about. But,
like,
I don't
these
remember.
murders relatively close to him? Like where he lives?
They're all in Kansas. I don't know how close they are. Let me see. There's also a map that I have, so I'll just look at that real quick.
Because, it'd be like, what is it? Man, our neighbors were murdered. And you were right there.
He lives in Park City. So there are some. They're kind of everywhere. He put a lot of packages down in southern Wichita. And it looks like a lot of his were in Wichita. It looks like 2 that were near his house. There was 2 that were near his house. But they're not, there's only 2 that are near Park City. So a lot of them are taking place just in Wichita. So it looks like he mostly stuck to kind of staying away from his house.
Smart.
So, that makes sense, but...
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
no, because I was wondering, like, how does he not become a suspect, like, if all these murders are happening around his neighborhood at that point, and you're the only person,
Yeah.
not
No, I know what you mean.
affected. Either you're lucky or something's not adding up here.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
But if they're happening away from him, then, that makes it safer for him, I guess.
Yeah. But continuing. I couldn't find the letter, but it's pretty bad when I read it. Where were we? Yeah. Okay, so he basically...
Oh, yeah, he failed.
They don't come home. He fails. So he goes trolling on foot down Hydraulic Street and encountered a 5-year-old boy, Steve Relford. He pulled out a photo of his own wife and son and asked Steve if he knew who they were. Steve said he didn't and proceeded on home to complete the errand to the store where his mother had sent him on. Rader soon knocked on the door, and Steve answered. He was posing as an official person, perhaps a detective, and gained entry into the home. There were 3 children in the home, including Steve, an 8-year-old brother, a 4-year-old sister. Rader abruptly turned off the television and lowered the blinds. The mother emerged in a bathrobe, demanding to know what's going on. At gunpoint, Rader ordered all the children into the bathroom where he blockaded the children in. He made his intentions clear to the mother, that he was going to bind her and have his way with her. However, it wasn't rape he was after, as he led Shirley to believe. Rader claims he got her a glass of water, and she threw up and allowed her to have a smoke to calm down. Shirley was ill that day, and her common-law husband wouldn't be home till later.
Wow.
Rader tied her up and as promised, but then strangled her to death with the cord around her neck.
Yep.
He left semen on panties found next to the body. He was gone before the children could break out of the bathroom and summon help. Rader later stated that a ringing telephone unnerved him and caused him to leave before he could kill the children.
Oh, that's
So he was
literally
planning on killing...
Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, he was literally planning on killing children, and then he got out of there.
Was he wearing his mask?
I don't know. I don't think so, because he's posing as a detective. So I think he shows up with his face.
Yeah. Wait, so did the kids
So they know what he looks like. I mean, they're kids. They probably know what he looks like, but it doesn't lead to anything.
They can't describe.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it how old were the kids? I was like, it depends. I mean, an 8-year-old, I mean.
I think they were like
something.
8 and 11.
11. They can get something.
Or no, it's 8-year-old brother and a 4-year-old sister.
Well, they can't get nothing
Steve,
out of the 4-year-old.
I think, was like a 5-year-old. Yeah, so 5, 8, and 4.
Okay, they could try and get something out of the 8-year-old, but the 5 and 4-year-old, no.
Yeah, no.
No, I was saying 11-year-old. You're telling me they couldn't get like anything out of that 11-year-old? But no.
No, essentially not.
No.
Continuing though, in December 1977, Rader became fixated on Nancy Fox, stalking her from her residence and workplace. On the evening of December 8th, he broke into her modest duplex via a rear bedroom window, at first cutting the phone line. So this was kind of his MO. He'd always cut the phone line, so I guess I couldn't call, except for that last one.
Yeah, because he didn't cut the phone line that one. That one was like, he just went there.
Yeah, it was unplanned. He just really wanted to murder someone, I guess.
Yeah. He was feeling the itch.
But he awaited her arrival from her evening job at a jewelry store. Nancy was the sole occupant of the duplex at that time and lived alone. The initial confrontation took place in their kitchen, presumably at gunpoint. Rader stated that he had a sexual issue and needed to tie her up and rape her. Other than making barbed comments, Nancy did not fight back. She was ordered into the bedroom after being allowed to partly disrobe in the bathroom. Rader tied her to the bed and undressed himself. At that point, he announced who he really was, making it clear he was the same person who killed the Oteros, and then proceeded to strangle her to death with a ligature. He left semen deposited on a nightgown found next to the body. The following morning, after reporting to work at ADT and leaving the office in a company van, Rader stopped at a phone booth just a couple blocks down the street. He dialed a police dispatcher and said, "Yes, you will find a homicide at 843 South Pershing. Nancy Fox. That is correct," and left the receiver dangling. Police rushed to the residence and found her lifeless body still lying on the bed. The head was badly swollen. A tape recording of that call was eventually played repeatedly over and over in the Wichita media, but no one, including Rader's coworkers or family, was able to recognize the voice. And I'll put that in the podcast episode. I'll put it probably right now, just so they can hear it.
Wow.
In early 1978, Rader attempted to send a postcard with a sarcastic poem, Shirley Locks, to the Wichita Eagle, but no one recognized the significance of it until days later. It was followed by a letter that was taken quite seriously, and the killer took full responsibility for the Otero, Shirley Vian, and Nancy Fox murders, plus an unnamed seventh victim, later assumed to be Catherine Bright.
I was saying they can't. Well, I don't know how a forensics would work. They can't get, I don't know, any DNA samples from the leftover semen he's leaving, but I honestly
not
don't
yet.
know.
No, that was
this
closer
is
to our time.
Yeah, I was about to say,
yeah.
No, this is back.
This
in the
is
day.
like still in late. This is late 70s.
Yeah,
I don't think they had
any of
DNA
that.
for a while.
Yep. Yeah. No. Yeah. No.
Okay.
I keep reminding myself, but no, this is like way back in the day. It's not as like if you're average. Basically, if like a present day BT killer tried doing that, they would have caught him. I'm assuming.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
because of what he's been doing.
But the writer suggested a number of names for himself, including BTK. It was written in the same style as the 1974 letter and mentioned a mysterious Factor X that the writer said the reason for his need to kill people. So essentially, he blamed it on Factor X.
Factor X.
Also included was a bizarre poem, "Oh Death to Nancy," mimicking an old folk song and poem called "Oh Death." I'll probably read that here later, but I don't have it on me right now, so I'll put that in. This letter forced the Wichita Police Department to make a decision. It was decided that it would be publicly announced that Wichita had an unknown serial killer on the loose, and citizens were urged to be extra careful about locking doors and looking out for each other. A whole generation of women grew up in Wichita that routinely checked their phones for a dial whenever re-entering their homes to make sure their phone line had not been cut by an intruder. So essentially, he made it to where everybody is checking their phone lines now just because they're so scared that, someone could be doing this again.
The paranoia. Jesus.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's killing people that, no. So... Understandably
so. He's cutting your means of communication. So
yeah. In June 1978, Paula gave birth to the Rader's second and final child, Carrie. She had been pregnant through all the events following the Nancy Fox murders. In April 1979, Rader broke into the home of Anna Williams, a 63-year-old widow who had recently lost her husband. He waited fruitlessly for Anna to come home, but she didn't until later that evening. Rader pilfered a few small items and left, disappointed. So I think that's actually the one he wrote the poem about, was Anna Williams. I don't think the other one he wrote the poem about, because I remember him writing a poem about it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, here it is.
He's fucking failed, so he's like, I'm going to write a poem about it.
In June of that year, just days before Rader's graduation ceremony at WSU, Anna received a package in the mail with a poem titled, "Oh, Anna, why didn't you appear?" A drawing of what Rader had intended to do to her and a few things he had stolen. The next day, a similar package arrived at the studios of Cake TV in Wichita. Anna was terrified and quickly moved far away from Wichita. So she literally just ran the fuck away, which is understandable.
Yeah, completely understandable. Like, she's like, no, I'm gone. Bye. Smart. Shit.
Yeah. I mean, you can't blame her.
Nope.
She almost died.
Yeah, nope. She saw it as lucky and got the hell out. It's a smart way. Sorry if I sound a little different, but no, that is the absolute 100% thing you should do if you got away the first time or got lucky. Just leave.
Yeah, 100%.
Don't stay in the same place. Nope.
Yeah. Now we're moving into the 1980s. This is half of the second part, so we're almost to our break.
I was going to say, this is not a situation of lightning doesn't strike twice. That's a perfect situation. Lightning does strike twice in that situation.
Yeah. Yes, it definitely does.
Well, back in that day, I should say. Back nowadays, I don't know. They wouldn't. I don't think the killer would risk trying to do it again. But
yeah, probably not. I don't know. We'll see. If Dennis Rader had enjoyed all the publicity BTK was getting in the late 1970s, he must have grown increasingly wary of being caught. Ahead in the game, he knew when to fold it. Nothing more was heard from the killer publicly until 2004, except for one letter that he was not officially acknowledged to have come from BTK in 1988. Rader continued his trolling while becoming more active in his church and also became a Cub Scout leader when his son was old enough. In fact, son Brian would eventually attain the status of Eagle Scout, undoubtedly with ample encouragement and guidance from his father. Rader never utilized his degree in administration of justice from WSU, but was known to have envied becoming a police officer and was also reportedly involved at times in reserve officer programs as a volunteer. This is another thing that you'll see a lot with these kind of guys, is they want that authoritarian kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
They want to be in power, so they will do anything to get into power.
Wait, so what you're saying? Wait, he had 2 kids?
Yeah, I think he had 2 kids.
What the? Let me see. I keep hearing about the dog. What happened to the other kid?
I don't know. Yeah, he has 2 kids. He has a girl and a boy. The girl wrote the book. I don't know what the boy did. We'll probably read about it in a bit because I think it's gonna go into some of the aftermath, I believe.
Okay, yeah, because I always hear about like what the daughter did, how the daughter went. I was like, wait, what happened? And now I'm just learning he had a son. So I'm like, wait, what the hell did the son do? How did the son react?
Yeah,
or all that, or The sun
Well, he
turn
might
out
just want to
bad
not
as
want to be
well,
around it. He
unfortunately.
might just not want to be,
Associated with that.
associated with it. He probably just changed his name and disappeared.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I would do.
Change
But
your name,
anyways.
leave. Bye.
It is impossible to understand the story of Dennis Rader unless someone has knowledge of what a psychopath is. A psychopath is a person who is incapable of empathy for other beings. They are self-centered to the extreme, and no one else matters to them unless someone serves a purpose or potential purpose for the psychopath. This is a person who has no problems with hurting others, no guilt, shame, or remorse. It is a person who is deceptive, lies freely and skillfully without shame or regret. Dennis Rader from his youth learned how to live in two worlds, the conventional social realm everyone lives in and his own private world of torture and death. He was extremely skillful in separating these two worlds, what is known as compartmentalizing. He would go out and commit the most atrocious murder and come home like nothing had happened. It was like changing clothes or switching to a different channel. Yeah. For him, it was insanely easy to just do that. Like, he's like a pretty much poster child for a psychopath.
Pretty much. It's like, oh, easy.
Yeah.
Like,
yep. That's essentially how it is for him. By 1985, as far as anyone knows, it had been a number of years since the last kill. Rader was a busy family man, a person with no criminal record, someone apparently religious and helpful at church. Despite all this, he took great lengths to pull off his next murder. He was now 40 years old, his son was 9, and his daughter was 6. Maureen Hedge, 53, was a widow neighbor who lived in the same street in Park City as the Raiders. She was a petite, friendly woman, mother of 4 grown children, who had lost her husband Thomas in the past year. In the 1970s, the Raiders had purchased a small home on Independence Street. During their walks, Dennis and Paula would sometimes wave to Maureen, who enjoyed gardening around the home, as did Dennis. On the weekend of April 27th, 1985, Rader was attending a Boy Scout camp outside of Wichita. He left camp in that evening with the pretext of having a headache and needing to get down to buy something for it. He parked his car in a bowling alley in the city and bought himself a beer. He swished the liquid in his mouth, spit it out, and also deliberately got some beer on his clothing so he would have smelled like he was drinking. Calling a cab, he pretended to be drunk and instructed the driver to take him to a park in Park City so he could walk it off before arriving home. The park adjoined the backyard of the Hedge property. Rader was disappointed to see Maureen's car in the carport, assumed she was home. He cut the phone line and quickly pried open the rear door with a screwdriver. It turned out that no one was home, as he had hoped, and soon a car pulled up and Rader hid in the bedroom closet. Maureen Hedge and a friend, Gerald Porter, entered the home. Gerald left for the night around 1 a.m., while Rader waited for her to go to sleep. Rader crept out of the closet, flicked on the bathroom light, and then pounced on Maureen in the bed, manually choking the 100-pound woman to death. However, his fantasy-driven outing was far from over. He dragged the body with the bedding to her car and put it into the trunk. Rader drove directly to his church, where he was a person so trusted that he had keys to the building. He dragged the body underneath some trees and entered the building down to the basement, where he taped black plastic over the basement windows so no one could see inside. He then dragged the body down into the basement and photographed it in various poses. It was getting late, and Rader hurriedly returned the body to the car trunk and took off. He found a dumping place in a ditch along a dirt road several miles outside of Park City and semi-concealed the body under some trimmings. He left knotted pantyhose at the body, which apparently had been used for some purpose during the night. At one point, Rader had dropped the car key onto the dashboard, and the key slid down and wedged under the windshield. He used a rock to smash the corner of the windshield to retrieve the key.
Damn.
By now, it was getting light, and Rader hurriedly made his way back to where he left his car in Wichita. He parked Maureen's car there after wiping down for fingerprints and returned to the scout camp he had deserted earlier. He was never connected to the crime until some 20 years later. He still had photographs in his collection. So essentially, that's the only thing they have right now, I believe, is fingerprints. That's the only thing that they can use to track, which he's wiping down all the crime scenes from it.
Yeah.
So
All they got are fingerprints.
Yep. In September 1986, he had his eyes on Vicky Wergely. Wergirl? I don't know. A 28-year-old mother of two. He would walk by her house hearing strains of piano music as Vicky played. On September 16th, he took some time for a PJ, or a project, as he called his murder prospects. Essentially, he called them a project, which is kind of fucked up.
Jesus.
Yeah. Sometime after 10 a.m., he showed up at Vicky's door, dressed up like a telephone repairman to complete with a hard hat. He somehow managed to get Vicky to allow him inside to check the phone line. He fiddled with their phone and improvised a testing gadget, and then informed her she was going to be tied up. Presumably using a gun, he forced her into the bedroom and attempted to tie her up, but she gave him a fierce battle, scratching him in the process. Rader prevailed in a physical fight and secured her with ropes, and then proceeded to strangle her to death with pantyhose as a ligature.
Scratch?
He photographed the dying body in a few poses and hastily left in the Wergel car. Vicky had warned him that her husband would be arriving home shortly. Rader later testified that the husband had come home. If the husband had come home, he would have been killed also.
Depending on... Wait, no, Rader has a gun, right? Or no?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, never mind.
He has a gun.
Yeah, I was going to say, depending on the situation, you never know. But no, if he's got a gun, yeah, no, that guy's probably just going to get shot right then and there.
Yeah, if he had caught him, he was going to die.
Unless, no, I'm kidding. I was like, unless the other guy had a gun, then it's a full-on shootout.
Yeah, and then
it's
just a shootout. No.
No. So, from what I heard, these people she scratched him. Did she leave anywhere though?
I don't know. Probably on the face or on the arms.
And nobody's gonna question how the fuck he got a. Well, on the arms, I'm sure it's easy to cover it up, but. He didn't get it on the face, but I'm like,
if he got it anywhere, I think it's not immediately leading to murder. It could probably just be from like an animal, or he could say, I mean, he works in telephone repair, like he works with ADT. Maybe he cut himself on something, you know?
Yeah.
But Bill did come home though soon afterward, and even saw his own car going in the opposite direction away from the house. He couldn't identify the driver, but it didn't appear to be Vicky. His 2-year-old son was still in the living room unattended. Bill couldn't find Vicky at first, who was in the bedroom floor behind the bed, but finally did after a while. She was rushed to a hospital with paramedics desperately trying to revive her, but was pronounced dead a short time later.
Damn.
BTK...
I thought the husband was too late. Yeah, he just drove by him.
Yeah, he was. BTK, meanwhile, had driven around the city for a while, disposing of evidence, then returned to the area near the house and parked the Wergel car a couple blocks down from the home. He exited the area on foot and returned to his own car nearby. Changing clothes, he escaped all detection for his crime and was never suspected of it. Bill's life soon took a turn for the drastic. Not only had he lost his wife and mother of his kids, he was faced with the hostile and skeptical police on public who never seemed satisfied that he could be innocent of his crime.
Oh, wow.
Of this crime. A dark cloud of suspicion hung over him for the next 18 years. Nobody had heard of BTK in 8 years, and the police discounted this as a BTK crime. No charges was ever filed against Bill, but the anguish of those years was keen.
Keen on what?
Like, you know, he's been going through 18 years of suspicion.
Damn, that sucks. But he wasn't even home. But of course, they're like, well, that's what you say.
Yeah, I mean, he's at the end of the day, he's always gonna be the prime suspect just because he is the significant other.
Yeah, they're always gonna assume him, but they got no evidence on him. But of course, they're still gonna assume, which sucks. That poor man. Yeah.
At the end of 1987, another notorious family murder occurred in Wichita. This time, 3 members of the Philip Fager family, the father, Philip, and 2 teenage daughters. A contractor who worked for the Fagers was arrested in Florida, after leaving the murder scene in a Fager car using a credit card stolen from them. Bill Butterworth was eventually acquitted by a jury due to a lack of physical evidence, but the police remained satisfied that he was the murderer. A letter received by Mrs. Fager in early 1988 from BTK, who stated he did not do this crime but admired the work of a man who did. He was never confirmed as a genuine BTK communication until police found a copy of the original letter in Rader's stash 17 years later.
Wait, so
He also... I'm sorry?
I was going to say, so Rader found a body of somebody that was already murdered?
No, there was a murder. There was a family murder done by someone else named Bill Butterworth, is what they believe. Wow. He wrote a letter to Miss Fager, who didn't die, saying that he did not murder them, but he admired the work. That's what he said.
So another guy.
So he's like, oh, so it was a copycat, essentially. A copycat of BTK did it, and BTK was like, "Yo, good job." But he had also done his own illustration of what he thought had happened the day to one of the girls, but it was not accurate to the real crime scene. In 1988, Rader succeeded in getting himself fired from ADT Security. The official reason stated by the company was that he was not getting his work quota done. The varying reports from coworkers describe a man who could be difficult to work with but was customer-oriented. One description of him from Time paints a picture of a man who wanted to be a police officer but had been forced to settle for what Rader saw as an inferior position of being an alarm installer. In any case, he was out of a steady job. There is a record of Rader working for the U.S. Census Bureau for several months only in 1989 as a field operations supervisor. Otherwise, he would have been unemployed or finding temporary work until landing a new position in 1991. So he's essentially a career failure. Like, he just doesn't have a steady job, and when he does have a steady job, it's something that he's not satisfied with. Yeah, but we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break or so. All right, continuing. Now we're on Dennis Rader, BTK Killer, a biography, 1990 to 2003. It is not known what work Dennis Rader had, if any, into early 1991, but he was into another PJ in January 1991. Now 45 years old, he was wary of PJs involving younger women where a male was present, so he saw older women as more vulnerable. Encounters with younger ladies had been difficult when they fought back. Males were just obstacles in the way of his intended conquests.
No, this man was a bitch. He couldn't handle the man.
He's a huge bitch.
Yep. Was like, I'll go for the weak prey. I'm like, oh, you're a bitch.
Rader focused his attentions on an older woman who lived alone, 62-year-old Dolores Davis. She only lived about 1.5 miles from where he did, but there is no indication he was personally acquainted with her. So you also see this with like criminals, is they originally, or mostly serial killers, they'll do all their killings really far from their home, and then as they get more deep into the rabbit hole, they kind of will get closer and closer to their home, like they're losing that barrier of like self-protection. Yeah, they get sloppy. Dolores had moved into the Park City area after years of an executive secretary in Wichita and was renting a house in an area close with neighbors, or without close neighbors. This undoubtedly piqued Rader's interest. He noticed her at her home one day and might have done some snooping or investigating to confirm her status as a single woman living alone. This would be another well-planned project. Using the pretext of being away for the weekend on a scout camping outing in Harvey County, just to the north of Sedgwick County, where Rader resided, he again invented an excuse to slip away from camp in the evening. It was a very cold night, below freezing. He drove back to his parents' home in North Wichita, apparently they have been away that weekend, and changed out of his scout uniform and to his hit clothes. Rader then drove to the Baptist church in Park City and parked his car, and set out on foot for the Davis residence. When he got there, Dolores was still awake and reading in bed. He waited out in the cold for her to turn off the light and go to sleep, using a cement block taken from the shed in the backyard. He rammed the sliding glass door at the rear of the house. Dolores came out of the bedroom thinking someone had driven into her house, but there was Rader. He launched into the familiar line of being a vagrant in need of food, money, and a car, and told her he had to tie her up. There are indications from this crime scene that a struggle did take place, but Rader succeeded in tying her up in the bedroom. It is not known how long Rader it is not known for how long Rader lingered there, but Dolores helped to ruin his party by telling him she was expecting someone to arrive at any minute. He ended her life by ligature strangulation. Rader made a sketch of her final moments as a time soon after this murder.
Wow. Damn, she
Yeah.
tried to fuck with him.
Rader dragged the body outside and put it in the trunk of her car. He only drove a short distance to a lake area near I-135 by Park City and left the body and other evidence there under some trees. He then drove to the car back to the Davis house and wiped it down for fingerprints, tossing the keys onto the roof. Rader then set out on foot, walking in a roundabout fashion back to the Baptist church. Driving his own car, he returned to where he left the body and put it in his car. He meandered around the north and settled on a remote spot underneath a bridge in northern Sedgwick County as the dumping spot. After leaving her there, he went somewhere to change back into the scout uniform and return to camp. The following night, he left camp again and to come back to the dumping spot to pose and photograph the body. Rader says he had an encounter with the police officer at the place where he had to change clothes, but was let go after a few questions. Soon after the murder, Rader took a photo of himself buried in a grave he says he had dug for Dolores Davis, wearing a mask and using a Polaroid camera activated with a mechanism triggered via a cord. So he essentially has like a bunch of photos that he's taken of himself in like bondage. Mm-hmm. So pretty disgusing, but yeah. I mean, that's not really disgusting, but he's pretty much modeling.
Him, bro.
Yeah, he's putting himself in the grave that he dug for this old woman that he just murdered.
That's fucked. Dude, that cop almost had him.
Yeah.
He was like, shit, but
literally
let go just because he fucking questioned him.
Only 4 months after this episode, Rader was hired by Park City as a compliance and animal control officer. He had become a combination dog catcher and local code enforcer. He was now part of the local law establishment. He gained a varying reputation ranging from efficient and friendly to overzealous and petty, writing citations and if a lawn exceeded 6 inches in grass height. There were complaints against him, and several people were said to have moved away from Park City due to his mistreatment. No complaint ever resulted in disciplinary action, as local officials would usually side with Rader when dealing with citizens. There is only one record of a case going to court where a woman contested a $25 fine levied against her by Rader over dog control. Rader showed up in court with a satchel a half-inch thick full of official documents and won the case.
Wow. So he went to court, but it wasn't even for...
I mean, he won the court case.
Yeah.
One woman had a very disturbing story about Rader. There was no problem until after she got divorced and a new male friend came to live with her. Rader kept issuing citation after citation for, among other things, items as trivial as wrong color hose on like a wrong color garden hose. So she had the wrong color of hose, so he cited her.
You can get citation for having the wrong colored garden hose.
I guess so. I don't know.
That is the most stupidest shit I've ever heard. What?
For real. Yeah, it's really bad.
What? I'm glad we're focused on real things. I mean,
yeah.
I guess, that is also probably to make it deter from him away from being a killer. This guy's just petty.
Yeah, 100%.
At the same time, what the hell? Oh, whatever.
He didn't like the inoperable vehicle in the driveway the male friend was working on and made it clear to the woman that if he left, the problems would cease. Rader started looking in her windows and one day was found examining a door that had been mysteriously broken. But it all culminated when Rader impounded her daughter's dog and had put it to sleep before anyone could reclaim it. The lady immediately moved out of Park City. So he impounds the daughter's dog and euthanizes it before they could even go out and say, hey, this is our dog. Can we get it back?
Damn.
Yeah. Ruthless ass.
Yep. And they left.
Yep. In a gender discrimination lawsuit filed in federal court, Rader's coworker Mary Capps, who worked under Rader from 1998 until his arrest, alleged that he was a terrible boss, cold, demanding, and degrading. She described one incident of being trapped in her office and chased around the room, terrified. Capps stated that she complained weekly to Rader's supervisor about his ongoing behavior, but was simply dismissed or referred back to Rader himself. 3 formal complaints to the city of Park City were, by city procedures, channeled to supervisor Dennis Rader, who naturally did nothing about them. There were media reports after the arrest stating that Chaps may have been drugged repeatedly with animal tranquilizers while working with Rader, although this was not mentioned in the lawsuit. A federal judge had dismissed the lawsuit, saying it was not filed within required time limits. In 2001, Rader gave a brief interview to Wichita Station over animal control incident as related to the story of KSN. So you can actually see there's a picture of him on TV right there.
Wow.
Yeah. During the 1990s, Rader served on 2 local boards in Park City. In 1996, his father, William Rader, died of natural causes. His mother, Dorothea, eventually began staying in a nursing home or at home with son, Jeff. Rader's daughter, Carrie, attended Kansas State University, whose football team he was a huge fan of. In 2003, Carrie married a man from Michigan and went there to live. Son Brian joined the Navy and left the area for the East Coast. Rader was elected to church council and assumed position of vice president starting on January 1st, 2004. According to the church procedure, the vice president becomes council president after 1 year. The Raders remained quite active in their Lutheran church, with Dennis a trusted leader, helper, and usher. Despite all this, with the kids gone, Rader found himself increasingly bored. Because he's not killing people. That's how he's bored.
Yep. I was going to say, yep. And your family's moving out, so now he's like, well, nothing better to do. The kids are out of the house. Gotta go back to murder.
Yep.
Murder.
The online crime library had published an article about the unsolved BTK case, which it was thought was dead or jailed or institutionalized. They didn't really know what happened to him. The subject had faded even in Wichita, and a whole generation of Wichitans had grown up without much knowledge of the case. Rader had thought about publicly reemerging later in life, but then all of a sudden, BTK became a topic of interest again. So we have a bit of a time skip coming up. A Wichita lawyer named Robert Beatty was concerned that BTK case was being all but forgotten. He set out to write a book about the investigation and tried so hard to capture this elusive killer, who he still reasoned to be a potential threat to the public, even though the last known murder had occurred in 1977. BTK was attributed with 7 murders in the attempt on Anna Williams in 1979. Beatty was responsible for a renewed interest in the BTK case as early as 2003, and the message board Crime and Justice began discussing the case again on the internet. January 2004 was the 30th anniversary of the Otero murders, and the Wichita Eagle ran an article about the crime and the BTK killer. In conjunction with that came the announcement of publication of Robert Beatty's new book. These events more than captured Dennis Rader's attention. He became alarmed that someone else would be telling his own story, and suddenly his plans for an eventual reemergence were greatly accelerated. Rader fumed what to do over the next couple months, but then took action. On March 17th, he mailed an envelope to the Wichita Eagle from Bill Thomas Kilman. It was contained contained 3 photocopied pictures of his own photos of the dying of Vicky Wergel, taken in 1986, as well as a photocopy of her missing driver's license. He signed it with the BTK symbol he had used in his previous letters in 1970s. The letter was forwarded to the FBI, who confirmed its authenticity as a BTK communication. An old cold case was solved, but the uproar had only just begun.
Wow.
All right, we're getting into where he's gonna get captured. I believe it's gonna be soon.
Oh, well, we're getting to the meat and potatoes, man. You think this crazy man? It's ridiculous how he got caught. Thank God he got caught.
Yeah, thank God.
What a dumbass. But anyway,
here we go. The dust hadn't begun to settle when Rader sent a second letter, this time on May 5th, 2004, to the studios of Cake TV and Wichita ABC affiliate. This was a lengthy word puzzle consisting of columns of letters and a few numbers mixed in. The FBI verified that this also came from BTK, as he characteristically used unique signature, but couldn't make any particular sense out of the puzzle. On June 9th, 2004, Rader left a package taped to a stop sign on the corner of 1st and Kansas, in the middle of the city. This contained a disturbing collection of documents, including a letter detailing the grisly murders of the Otero family, and the sketch of a nude and bound female hanging by a rope. The 11-year-old Josephine Otero had been hanged in by a rope in the basement of their home in 1974. The sketch was labeled, "The Sexual Thrill Is My Bill." Also enclosed was a chapter list, the BTK story, that mimicked the chapter of David Lohr's original article on BTK at the online crime library. Chapter 1 was entitled, "A Serial Killer is Born." On July 17th, 2004, a package marked BTK was found in a book return at the Wichita Public Library downtown. It contained a worrisome message. "I have spotted a female that I think lives alone and or spotted a latchkey kid. Or is a spotted latchkey kid. Just got to work out the details. I'm much older, not feeble now, and have to condition myself carefully. Also, my thinking process is not as sharp as it uses to be." That's how he actually says it. That's not me mistaking. He says uses to be.
Yep, that is a clear sign that he's becoming senile.
Yep. I think fall or winter would be just about right for the hit. Got to do this year or next. This time, your time is running out for me. This package contained an intriguing claim that he, BTK, had engineered the recent death of a 19-year-old man from Argonia, Kansas, named Jake Allen. Jake Allen had committed suicide by lying on railroad tracks 12 days earlier. BTK claimed to have lured the young man to his death via a series of computer chats. This claim was later disproven as a hoax, as there is no such evidence that Allen ever had any such internet chats with anybody, and his death is still seen as a suicide. So he's essentially trying to take credit for making this dude commit suicide, which is terrible, but, you know.
Damn. This man's like trying to grasp at straws. He's lost his pride.
Despite huge pressure from the public, the police refused to release many details of the packages from June on, as it feared hearing these things could provoke BTK into a killing frenzy.
Oh boy.
Yeah. The fifth drop didn't occur until October 22nd, 2004, when a UPS worker found a strange manila envelope while picking up the contents of a UPS box at the Omni Center by 2nd and Kansas. This consisted of a very disturbing assortment of cards that had images pasted on them, including one of a bound woman with a look of sheer terror on her face. One card contained a poem, "The Death to Landwehr," a reference to Lieutenant Ken Landwehr, who was head of the BTK investigation. There was a collage of pictures of children with bindings drawn across their bodies and faces. This envelope also contained what BTK claimed to be an autobiography, listing a number of details about his life, such as being born in 1939, his father dying in the war, a mother dated a railroad detective, and so on. BTK claimed to be fascinated with railroads and usually lived near railroad tracks. Almost all of it was actually false in an attempt to mislead police into researching false clues. The police did release the autobiography to the public a few weeks later, which undoubtedly would have greatly pleased, if not excited, Dennis Rader. What the Wichita Police Department was actually doing was following the FBI's device, keeping the killer communicating. Don't offend him publicly. Don't overexcite him into killing some more. Just keep communicating until he makes a mistake. On December 1st, 2004, officers of the Wichita Police Department stormed the house of Roger Valdez, who lived in a house in Wichita with peeling paint within sight of railroad tracks. He was held on a minor outstanding warrant, but apparently was suspected of being the BTK killer. A DNA test quickly exonerated him, however. Ultimately, police would have to take some 1,300 DNA swabs of men searching for a match to BTK's semen left at crimes. Rader's sixth drop was found on December 14th, 2004. A man walking through Murdoch Park that night noticed a package wrapped in white plastic leaning against a tree. Out of curiosity, he took it home with him and opened it. It contained a PJ doll. The doll's head had had a plastic bag tied over it. Its hands were binded behind its back, and its feet were tied together. Tied to the feet was a real driver's license belonging to a BTK murder victim, Nancy Fox, who had been killed in December 1977. The man immediately notified Cake TV, who arrived and photographed the contents and notified police. Cake agreed to not broadcast what was found on the package for fear of arousing a killer. On January 1st, 2005, Rader officially became the new president of the church council at Christ Lutheran Church in Wichita, as per his election to the vice presidency the previous year. So he's the president of church while being like a piece of shit, horrible person.
I was gonna say, just wait. Yeah. The church. It's not a good look on the church. It's not a good look on the church, and not a good look on Lutherans. Wow.
Yeah. 8 days into the new year, Rader left a Special K cereal box marked BTK and a bomb in the bed of a pickup truck parked at the Home Depot on North Woodlawn. The truck belonged to an employee of Home Depot. He thought it was trash at first put it in the trash can at home. Luckily, his wife had thrown discarded pillow on top of the box, unwittingly preserving it. Days later, when the man realized the significance of the box, he was still able to retrieve it by reviewing surveillance tape of the parking lot. On January 8th, the police had their first glimpse of BTK, but the image was too far away and blurry for identification. But by measuring the wheelbase of the black vehicle he was driving, it was determined to be a Jeep Cherokee. Despite having installed alarm systems for a living, Rader apparently was unaware that video surveillance cameras had become commonplace item. So essentially, they didn't know that he was too stupid to think, oh, they might have video surveillance of me dropping this package.
Yep. Then see, we're getting to the newer times. It's where it's trying to show the newer ways are slowly coming in, which led to his downfall.
The box itself contained information. Yeah. The box itself contained information about some of his PJs or projects intended victims that he had watched or stalked. It also contained more misleading information of how he lived in a 3-story home in Wichita with an elevator and had a bomb in the basement rigged to explode if the house were invaded. Rader was asked a peculiar question to the detectives. If he put his writings on a computer disk, would it be traceable? He requested a response to be posted in the Wichita Eagle, classified ads in the miscellaneous category using his codename Rex. Can I communicate with the floppy? This is his actual communication. Yep. Can I communicate with floppy and not be traced to a computer? Be honest. Under miscellaneous section 494, Rex, it will be okay. Run it for a few days in case I'm out of town, etc. I will try a floppy for a test run sometime in the near future, February or March. So this is where his dumbass tendency comes out, because he's like, oh yeah, can I do a floppy? Of course you can fucking be traced on a floppy, you dumbass. Here's where his downfall is. The eighth drop was another cereal box. Yeah, we're about to get to it. The eighth drop was another cereal box from the serial killer. This one was Post Toasties. It was discovered on January 5th, 2005 as a result of a tip from drop number 9, which was a postcard sent to Cake TV from an sent to Cake from South Killett using his return address at the top of the Otero house. Drop number 9 had mentioned the Post Toasties box and the drop at Home Depot on January 8th, which triggered the investigation that ultimately located the Special K box. The Post Toasties box was found leaning against a road sign on a desolate, unpaved section of North Seneca to the north of the Wichita city limits. Cake videotaped the box without touching it or notified police. It had a brick on top of it and appeared weathered. It was later revealed to contain another doll, this one with a rope tied around its neck and tied to a plumbing fixture, stimulating the hanging of Josephine Otero. So he's just buying, like, Barbie dolls, essentially, and tying them to shit. Really fucking weird. Really, really fucking weird. Whew. The 10th drop was another postcard that arrived on February 3rd, again sent to Cake. Return address was Hap Cakeman, a 1950s character from Cake's past. Rader wrote, "Thank you for your quick response to number 7 and number 8. Thanks for the news team for their efforts. Sorry about Susan's and Jeff's colds. Business issues. Tell WPD that I received new newspaper tip for a go. Test run soon. Thanks. P.S. May want to use KTV, PC, etc. code number and letters from me for my verification code to you." He was referring to the newspaper ad and Wichita Eagle placed there by the detectives to answer his question about safety of sending in a computer disk. The responding ad had assured him agreed upon code Rex, it will be okay. So it says there's a little thing here, and I'm not sure what this is. It's the communication for... Oh, it's just a code of... that. It's just a picture of the communication that we just read. Drop number 11 arrived at the studios of KSAS TV on February 16th, the Fox affiliate in Wichita. It contained a letter, a piece of jewelry, and a purple diskette referred to as test floppy for WPD review. Detectives wasted little time analyzing the diskette and found software on it from Christ Lutheran Church in Wichita and the name Dennis. Rader had apparently thought that he had erased the original contents of the diskette and that it would be safe to use for his purposes. A quick internet search brought up a website for the church mentioning its current president, Dennis Rader. A group of detectives quietly drove by Rader's house in Park City and noted a black Jeep Cherokee parked in the driveway. Rader was placed under surveillance while a subpoena was secretly obtained for a DNA sample of his daughter from medical records. So they're trying to get, like, evidence on him, so they're going to build up to it by getting the DNA evidence from his daughter and comparing it to the semen just to make sure that that is him.
Uh-huh.
So the familial DNA was a match to DNA found from semen at the BTK crime scene, and the case was solved. Contrary to early media reports, Carrie Rader never suspected her father was BTK, nor did she turn him in. She was asked to submit a DNA sample directly at her home in Michigan within an hour after the arrest, but never knew until later that the DNA had been used to solve the BTK case. After leaving the office to eat lunch at home with as was his custom, on February 5th, 2005, Rader was driving home when he noticed that he was totally surrounded by police, a huge number of them. He surrendered quietly and was led to a police car handcuffed. He said, "Hello, Mr. Landwehr," once he was in the car, and Landwehr responded, "Hello, Mr. Rader." Wow. All right. Yep. It's pretty crazy. Now we're getting... This is after he's arrested, so we're just going to go over... It's going to be pretty quick. It's like probably about the same length, so it shouldn't take too long. Here we go. Okay, so this is the last part. Dennis Rader was taken into an interrogation room after his arrest on February 25th, 2005. At first, he wouldn't talk much about the crimes, playing dumb or avoiding the subject. When he was confronted about the traced computer disk and DNA match, he started to talk. In fact, he wouldn't stop talking. In a stunning 30-hour confession, he rambled endlessly about his crimes as though proudly reciting his achievements. Never before known details of all his crimes, his methods, his mind, all came to light. Many excerpts of what he said in an interview can be read from the 90-page PDF document, states summary of the evidence.
Wow.
Sorry, drinking water.
No, that's okay.
On 26th of February, Rader's first mugshot was taken. He looks unkempt, which was out of character for Rader, but had been up all night confessing. When it was all over, though, he was taken to his cell and left to be there alone. There he began to realize that the cops were not on his side after all. His interrogations had been feeding his ego all along, pretending to be impressed by Rader to get him to keep talking. He bought the whole package.
What?
Yeah, so that's like a usual thing. They usually think that you know, he's they usually think that like they love the confessing to their murders because it's like reciting what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
But that's essentially it. The rest is just about the stuff. He gets put in prison. He's serving life. He's got pretty much no privileges. He's like been complaining about it a lot for the past couple years about how terrible it is they keep him in there like animals, even though he like murdered people. I think says he's gonna be
like animals because you slaughtered people like animals.
Yeah, he's got life imprisonment. He hasn't had the possibility parole until 175 years, but he has 10 consecutive life sentences. Yep. So in 175 years, when he's about like 300, no, I'm joking, he's gonna be like 200 or something, he'll be available for parole. But
yeah, but he ain't living that.
He's not getting out.
If he fucking lives to that, what the hell?
Yeah, but it's essentially that's all there is about it. It's a pretty interesting document. You can read it again at murderpedia.org if you want to on your own. There's also photos and shit. Mr. DBZ Mando, do you have anything you want to promote before I turn it off?
Well, I just want to say, we'll talk about it real quick. So you said they bragged on about him, or they got him to keep talking, and what in his right mind made him think the cops were on his side? Like him confessing everything. What was that going to accomplish for him? What was his mindset? Like,
when they interrogate you, when the detectives interrogate you, they use like psychological tricks to get you to think that they're actually just trying to get the truth so that you can get a shorter sentence. But what they're really trying to do is get as much evidence as possible to convict you for more crimes. But when they come to talk to you, they act super friendly. And in his case, they were acting super like impressed about what he was doing and being like, yo, dude, you did really good on that one. Essentially, They were like that. But yeah, that's essentially what they were doing.
Oh, okay. So they tricked him. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I was just like, why did he confess all that? Like, what was the point? But it's because they used the word psychology, and plus he's old, so doesn't know what they're trying to do. Of course.
Yeah, he is really old.
Yeah, it's honestly probably the only reason why.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, even in his youth, he was pretty stupid. But...
I mean, he knew it was over by then. There's a quote of like when they arrested him. They asked him like, "Do you know why you're being arrested?" And he was like, "I've got a pretty good idea. I've done some pretty bad things."
Wow.
So he knew he was done, but he just wanted to, he spent that 30 hours confessing, and he loved every bit of it until he got put in prison.
Damn.
Yeah, and then he was astonished whenever,
Yeah, you lied to me.
Yeah, he felt lied to.
Oh my god! Oh, really?
Yeah, he felt lied to.
God,
yeah,
he's so stupid. Yeah. Either two things could have happened. One, yeah, he got caught, or two, if he tried to go on his killing spree, he is pretty much older. He would have gotten caught, or the person he tried to murder would have killed him because he's so fucking old.
Yeah, 100%. But that's it.
And they would have been like, I got the BTK killer. Well, no,
yeah,
they wouldn't know. Like, they would just like, I got a killer.
Yeah, they wouldn't know who.
They wouldn't know who. So people, damn. So it's a good thing.
Well, they would. They would after, because they'd probably do DNA samples on him.
Oh. Yeah, okay.
Run him against, past criminals. But yeah. Anyways, that was the BTK killer. If you enjoyed it, listen to us on Spotify. Check out the Twitter. It's I dip my balls in hot chocolate as an acronym. Cameron, do you want anything promoted? What do you want to promote?
I got a YouTube and Twitch channel, DVZ Mando. That's just the name. That's pretty much it. Not a lot. Just follow me on Twitch and YouTube. There you go. I do a bunch of random crap.
All right, bet. This is Caleb now signing out.
I dipped my balls